Well, hello. Hopefully everything should be on. We will see. Again, if it is buffering, let's go check on YouTube to see, well, excellent condition. YouTube was having problems last weekend, or Monday. So hopefully we shouldn't have the same problems we had when it comes to buffering. Hopefully everyone can hear what I am saying, and also it's not stuck. It comes to that. So everyone's going to get on the chat first of all. Let's have a quick look. Well, at least the Stream Elements chat bot is running. Good. Hopefully it won't interfere with things going forward. So welcome everyone to the latest live stream. Every Monday, 7:30, give or take. So today we are going to be talking about a singular thing which I am having to talk about because it is, I would say it's driving me mental. It's not that. I mean, it's frustrating from a coach's perspective, absolutely, but it can't be as frustrating as it is when it comes to the clients. And golfers do this every single time they play. And this is not it's not a go. This is not I'm not attacking any individual person. I'm not picking on any individual person whatsoever. But it's more so, I've been saying this for ages, but it's still through many different aspects, whether it would be macho men idea, it would be people not perceiving actual against what they feel, people not using the right statistical analysis devices that are around to help us understand certain things. There's many different reasons. It's not just because we are just living in a dream world. And some mainly, I think most people do it through ignorance. They just don't know, and it's this. So I had one today, and then also a few last week, where the perception of distance that they hit the golf ball, regardless of the ARCOS data or such, because obviously there's many different devices, many different things that will measure things like strokes gained and stuff like that, and obviously ARCOS is just one of many. But people have the information out there, and whether they're not reading it correctly, I'm not quite sure, but there's a difference between how far you think you hit it and how far you actually hit it, what distance you physically hit it with bounce, roll, GPS data, and then what the difference is when it comes to carry. And when you're talking about playing golf, we're not talking about total distance a lot of the time, especially going on approach shots and using 7, 8, 9 pitching wedges and stuff like that into a green. We are talking very much so more about carry. And carry, there is a multitude thing. It's not just a case of, well, how far do you carry it? If you're going to do a gap test, and more people should really do gap tests, they really should do gap tests, because if you just go by your feelings, well, they change a lot. And your perceptions, people generally think they hit the golf ball far further than they actually do. Right, so let's see if we can get the chat going. Hopefully the chat is there. Get on the chat quickly, just make sure that the chat is working. I've typed some bits and pieces in there today, but that makes no difference when it comes to if anyone else can pop on the chats for us and just say hello, do anything, I don't mind. Just literally say something in the chat, just so I know that is working as it should. Fingers crossed. And then I'll talk about a little bit more about things. So let's get back over. Ben, evening Jay, evening Ben, hope you're well. Minley is working fine. Crispin, evening, hello Chris. Everyone say hello, because everyone likes everyone saying hello. Right, so when you go for a gap test, because the real reason this is rearing its head is the amount of difference that people perceive that they hit the golf ball and the actual distance. Hi Jay, message received, understood. Yeah, no, we're not picking on anyone. But the distance that people perceive they hit the golf ball, whether it be through their feel, whether it be that they're referencing the one time they hit their 7-iron 178 yards because they had 2 sprinkler covers, a concrete runway, and you kind of get the idea, downwind and all this lot. You do get a certain percentage of those, but you do get a large percentage of people which don't know because they haven't had a gap test, and also they've got no form of tracking information at all. So they're just going by relative, honest feel. And you've obviously got the others that live in a dream world. But you do get a certain bunch which have all the information out there. They've got say the Arcos for one. But because of how Arcos does things from start to finish point. That start and finish point is made up of many different things. Obviously a certain amount of carry, a certain amount of bounce, and a certain amount of roll. But we don't know that because obviously only Arcos gives start and finish point. And so different golfers who hit the golf ball different speeds, different dynamics, have a different separation of carry, bounce, and roll. And so that number varies with every single golfer. So in a gap test, you need 3 numbers. Now, what does a gap test look like? A gap test looks like this. If I put this up on the screen, or should I change? I'll do that. If not, you don't want the kaleidoscope one, it'll just be a little bit, yeah. But that's what a gap test within reason looks like. I have just grabbed a random gap test from someone on my computer at one point. Well, you can tell one point. It was 2nd of October 2021. And you can see that a gap test is made up obviously of all your golf clubs that you hit, full, sand wedge, pitching wedge, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, all this lot. And you can, even on that one there, you can distinctly see the problems involved within the gap test. That alone, you've got a sand wedge going 81 yards, a pitching wedge going 103, so you've got 22 yards gap. So I would be looking at putting a gap wedge, sorry, a sand wedge and a pitching wedge. I'd be looking at putting a gap wedge in there, just so I can try, if possible, to try and calm things down a little bit. Chris says, I've just had my first custom fit and will go to a range with the facilities to gap test my full set. Never done this before. Always judge my 7-iron as 150 carry, moving up to my 7-iron as 180 carry. Yeah, that can change depending on golf club manufacturer, golf club design, loft, big one, how you deliver that loft, more importantly. Speed changes as it goes along, and if you move to the moon. That is a very big contributor to how far the golf ball goes. Right, so as you can see there, that is just a sample of a gap test, and that gap test you do X amount of shots, bang, 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 whatever it be, next one, bang, 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 and it's a sterile environment. So there is no question mark over different things like different surfaces or wind or something like that. So it's done indoors on something like quad down there. So, oh, a little bit of fun. Right, reminds me. Ooh, cool, whack. Yeah, whack the table, move the camera. Try not to do that again. This little thing. You may see this little number rear his head in the videos. A very comical gentleman actually said to me, what you should do, you should put this in your videos, but not in the same place all the time, and randomly spot him around the videos at different points, which I thought was quite funny. So that's what I do. If the guys that are on here a lot and watch all my content, and I've got more content coming out tomorrow, day after tomorrow, probably day after tomorrow is that. Got the continuation of the launch monitor numbers video. I did release that one on Thursday, but like an idiot, I completely forgot about the US Open. So about 2 people watched it, because who was watching YouTube? Everyone was watching the US Open. So I pulled the video and then I'll re-release it so people can watch it, because obviously people want to watch it, but people don't want to watch my stuff as much as they wanted to watch the US Open, and quite rightly so. So yeah, that will be daft idea, isn't it? It's a teddy with, yeah, there you go. So just in case you thought I'm going mental, it's not, just been a bit funny. Right, so Yes, that gap test, there you go, I digress, is normally done on something like that, a launch monitor, so you can accurately measure everything. So, everyone knows what the gap test looks like. I've just popped up on the screen. And so, on that gap test, what you need, as far as I care about, 3 things. Peak distance. What is your peak carry distance? Yeah. So basically, if all the heavens align in one and you smack the golf ball right out the middle of the face, best face to path delivery you could ever hope for, it goes a certain number. And then, okay, that's your peak. Then what's your average? What do you have as your average carry, which is made up of everything? And we take the absolute shockers out. As long as those absolute shockers only happen every so often, because if those absolute shockers happen quite a lot, then we should be stopping the gap test straight away, because you need a lesson rather than a gap test. You kind of get the idea. And then one other number. As far as I'm concerned, you need a forced carry number. Now that forced carry number is effectively this. If you know, under normal conditions, not taking the really bad ones when you hit it off the shank or do something ridiculously daft, your normalized misses, what distance have I got in the bag in my, let's say with my 7-iron, whatever it would be, how far can it carry, or does it carry when I mishit it? That's my forced carry. So if you've got a island green, water all in front, clear out the back, but there's water all in front, and it's say 150 yards. Well, I hit my 7-iron 150 yards. Well, do you? No, you don't quite hit your 7-iron 150 yards. You think you do. Your peak goes 148 carry. So well done. You're spot on 100, yeah. But that's your peak, of which you hit 1 out of 52 shots. Your average goes 138 yards, or whatever it would be, yeah? But your forced carry goes 129, yeah? As in with a poor hit shot, it drops back. And so that's what people need to understand. Even J2 gap tests a year minimum, 1 summer and 1 winter, at least. Yes, a very good point, Perry. It very much is. It gives, obviously, because certain launch monitors like this have got barometrics, so it understands temperature and air pressure and stuff like that. So yes, and of course you can change in software, you can change certain bits when it comes to temperature reduction and stuff like that. But whether you do it by radar or whether you do it by camera-based technology, yes. I would see more so 2 gap tests a year minimum, down purely, not necessarily by distance through the cold, because obviously you can simulate that with stuff, but Perry is bang on right, is more so to change, is more of a monitoring of how the golfer changes within a year, because if you're getting older, you get slower. If you're having lessons, you may get more efficient. Or if you're going to the gym or doing some form of yoga or stretching or something like that, you may get faster. So having a continuous understanding. Golf pros do this constantly. Touring pros do it nearly every week. The reason why they've got TrackMans out there, the reason why they've got quads out there, is so that very thing. They need to know how they're performing every single week, and it changes because we are human beings, and so that's why it's important to do such. So when it comes to distance, yes, it is wild sometimes. I'll give you another one, little transition one into your. So this one's from a little while ago, December 2020. But you can see there that you've got fairly decent-ish gap test, gap wedge, pitching wedge 987, having a kind of decent-ish gapping in between. I think slightly a little bit large between the gap wedge and the pitching wedge, and the pitching wedge and the 9-iron being 17 yards a piece in between. But stabilizers 13. 14, 16, but then look at that, 3. Now, what's happening here is because the individual is running out of puff. And when I say running out of puff, I mean that the fact that the individual doesn't swing very fast. And if the individual doesn't swing greatly quick, then unfortunately what's going to happen is there comes a press the wrong button, kaleidoscope transition. It comes a point of where you get bunching, and in this case it was 6 and 5 iron. The 5 iron doesn't go any further whatsoever really than the 6. The 5 iron will go longer because it's going in shallower. You'll get a little bit more bounce, bounce and roll from it, which obviously bounce, bounce and roll is subjective to the course, the conditions, the time of year, loads of different things that you cannot control. And so the only thing you can really control is your carry. That will change, yes, through air pressure, air density as such, the temperature of the air, which is also linked to air density, humidity, wind, all this thing, atmospherics basically, that gets involved. But carry, that's the thing you can rely on. And at the moment what I'm seeing is a continuation. It doesn't change. I haven't seen really, regardless of how many messages are sent out, regardless of how many live streams or I could possibly do saying the same thing, there seems to be a continuation of people living on the information from not of the yesteryear, but living on information that they had in the past, which was true in the past, but not maybe so now. And so therefore needing to get much more up-to-date information, and sometimes going somewhere where whether it be a fitter, a pro, doesn't matter who's doing it, doing some form of gap test. Sometimes it's, most people, being honest, they just go get a piece of paper, and that piece of paper will look something, as you say, like that. That's another one that we can have a look for. You get that little cutout that you can get. It's a Foresight specific one, so you get that and you can laminate it at your delight if you wish, and then you can see all your numbers there. So you can see on that one alone, that's a bit of a weird and wonderful one. You've got 7 yards, 14 yards, 15 yards, then 4, and then 13 yards, and then 19 yards. And he was playing with an old set of golf clubs, and their lofts were horrific. That is another reason you should make sure you get your lofts and lies checked, depending obviously on usage. But I would say, they say every 6 months, I would say every year would be a good idea to get your lofts and lies checked every year if you play moderately. This set hadn't been checked for ages, which basically means you can see there the lofts were absolutely horrific, which means the gaps were shocking. And so he was hitting them fairly well. You can see by the groupings when it goes into his 4 hybrid and stuff. Of course, it gets a little bit wider. That's normal as the loft comes off when it comes to dispersion, but the gaps were crazy. How he didn't come in earlier to fix that, I don't know. But that number's there, you see. These are the carry numbers for it. These are your average carry numbers. But you can see by the scatter graph, you do get peak and you do get forced carry numbers too. And so therefore, what I say is forced carry numbers is the fact that you might have those on there to show that you've got an average carry of this. But I want to know my peak. So if all the moons align correctly, you hit it perfect, goes this distance. And I also want to know what happens when you don't do your best job in the world, because if you've got to carry water and if you've got to carry cabbage, then yes, you're going to need how far you hit it as a general rule when it comes to your misses. If not, you're going to cause yourself so many bad, it's just going to be, worst case scenario, you out the back long sometimes, but depending on the design of the golf course, if you have to make a decision, if you've got penalty short and it's a penalty long by going in the rough, but it's not like a lost shot straight away from going in the water, then go long. And it's, yeah. Had another one from Arcos where, again, it seems to be a pattern regardless of how many handicap golfers go on there. Of different handicaps, there is a distinct pattern of 50% of your approach shots are short. It seems now, obviously there are thousands and thousands and thousands of users in Arcos, and I haven't got absolute access to every single bird. Well, I probably have actually, but I'm not going to go and, yeah, it's just crazy. But the people that I have been looking at, it seems that very, very close to 50% of their approach shots are short. The rest of them are made up of, greens in regulation, which is good, ranging from 25% to 33% on a good one, that kind of idea. And then a spread between 3, 4, 5% long, not many whatsoever, normally 3 or 4%, and then a spread of left and right, and that can be as low as 5 or 6% left and right, and that also can be as high as double digits when someone has a predominant miss. But it's important people know. But again, that ARCOS data gives you total distance, not carry distance, and it's important because people are losing easy gains, like crazy easy gains, just by not understanding in reality how far their distance that they are hitting is constructed. It's not that they are deluding themselves as to how far they hit. They are hitting the number which they perceive they are, but it's the construction of it. It's the individual components, carry being the most important. Then you get a bit of bounce, and then you get a bit of roll. And depending on what happens when you're hitting the ground for the first time, if you're hitting the green, within reason, you've got a chance of being able to predict what the characteristics of that green will be, and so therefore what is going to happen to that ball. If you are constantly always dropping it short, or you may not think you are, but effectively that's how your distance or total distance is made up. When you hit on the fringe of the green, or when you hit just before the green, there are so many different things that can happen. And obviously you've got slopes onto a green, you can hit an upslope and it kills it straight away. There are a lot of times when you have like little depressions before the green where water naturally would then collect more. And so it's softer, it's greener, it's a little bit more, well, it's hit the golf ball into it rather than getting the standard bounce you get. It gets a dead nothing bounce. Sometimes you have sand in around spots and you hit a puff of sand and it just disappears, just dies, doesn't go. There is so many reasons why people need to understand carry, peak carry, average carry and forced carry, to be able just to do the same thing they do all the time, just make better decisions when they're playing golf. If you can just get rid of the big numbers, wow. If people are capable of parring many holes, you of course are going to bogey many holes. It's getting rid of the doubles, it's getting rid of the triples that cause so much pain. When it comes to hitting a certain club off the tee, if you know your patterns properly, when I say properly, I don't mean just by what you feel in your head, but you've either mapped it yourself or you use some form of statistical analysis device, whether it be ARCOS or something else, to actually show you what your distribution of misses are. Then you can, if you know what your pattern of golf, of shot shape from a golf club is, then you can then put that into your shot decision or your planning for that golf hole on understanding, knowing exactly what your golf clubs do. If you've got a out of bounds down the right hand side and you can miss a driver left and right and straight, well then it's only pot luck as to which one's going to come out, and Sod's Law says it's going to go to the right and you're going to go out of bounds. Yet if you have a other golf club, a fairway wood or a hybrid or a strong hybrid or whatever it be, which either goes straight or it goes left, straight and goes left, well you're out of bounds on the right hand side, by all means go for the hybrid, because, or whatever the golf club is that takes you away from that danger. You can pull it left into the rough. It's going to be a hard shot, of course it is, but it's not going to be as bad as what happens when you put it into a penalty area. A penalty area will take shots off you straight away, and you're going to be playing 3 from the tee, yeah? So then you're going to get onto the, it was 1, 2, 3. You're playing the 4th shot after what should be after your first. But because of that, because of poor decision making, you could have knocked your hybrid, okay, won't quite go as long, into the rough, but you're playing your 2nd shot from the rough, and I guarantee you that's the better way to do it. Yeah, I just felt I needed to jump on, and hopefully, this is why I will not make this live stream very long today, because hopefully when it comes to people watching this, when I do my normal 3-4 hour live streams, the normal subscribers will watch it and stuff like that's fine. But then when it comes to other people just surfing around and coming across the channel, they're less likely to watch something which is 4 hours long. They're more likely to watch something which is a little bit more constrained in time, but hopefully gets all the information across. So that's basically what I wanted to say. I wanted to get my 2 pence in when it comes to that. So make sure you listen to what I've said, think about it. If you have your own version of such things like Arcos or ShotScope or something like that, which does all these things which you want to, but then have a look on the way that distance that you know that's on there, whether it be 178 yards with this or 162 yards with that golf club or whatever, that's constructed of total distance. And within that, that's always really good to know. It is very, very good to know, but then you should also have your gap testing information where you have your peak yardage, your peak carry yardage, your average carry yardage, and your forced carry yardage in there to make sure that you can make the best decisions possible going into that hole. Because every single hole's got its own troubles, depending if it's short, left or right. A lot of time it's short, depending on the golf course. But yeah, so. All right, very, very quickly, if anyone else has got any questions, I will answer those. They don't have to be on the topic that I've literally just been prattling on about. It can be anything whatsoever. So quickly pop in there and I will answer any questions. If anyone hasn't got any questions and everyone else is happy to chew on that, I will then depart. But we have, click, go away, oh, there we go, wrong window. Jim says, I know you are not shaft sensitive, but do you have any thoughts about Aerotech steel fiber shafts? I do. They're expensive. Okay, so the Aerotech ones, the steel fiber ones, are the only shafts in Mizuno's, let's say Mizuno, because Mizuno have always operated a swing DNA, no upcharge policy on things, and things change as time goes on. And there's only really, when it comes to the irons at least, the steel fiber which is paid for. And so, so far, I'll be frank. Well, I can be Bill if you want, but you know, I'll be honest. In my whole time of using the DNA software and the upchargeable options, I have not yet found a shaft that couldn't match what an upcharge shaft could for no upcharge. If you kind of get my drift, yeah. Takes some time, takes some working with the student and stuff like that, because obviously golf equipment is already very expensive. I'm reluctant to have to put something else in the mix that is going to add or at least increment that cost even more. Matty says, what irons do you play? I'm going to be doing a what's in the bag very, very soon. So obviously they are Mizuno irons, because I've used Mizuno irons for as long as I now can possibly even remember. But yeah, I've used Mizuno irons for such long time. So it is Mizuno irons, but I'll leave that answer to the what's in the bag video, which is coming fairly soon. Perry says, ShotScope user, and although it has 3 distances for clubs, I ignore it and go by my gapping chart. Doing one for my daughter presently. Well done. Well done. Gap sessions, gap tests are something which is woefully underused. They need to be done a lot more. Min says, gap test with quad is okay, question mark, or just go outdoor range? No, quad is perfect. Right, when it comes to that old girl there, that old girl, yeah, not that old girl, the quad is amazingly brilliant at cutting the atmospheric worry out of the equation. So if you do go outside an outdoor range, you are subject to that day's atmospherics, subject to the continuing changing atmospherics and the influence that will have on your data collection. Not necessarily in a good way. And so I would suggest if you could do an indoor session on something like quad, then that would be the best option. Quad has got barometrics, and as long as you're talking to the person who is operating the quad and the software, this is the important thing. It doesn't matter how good a piece of software or hardware you have, it's the capabilities of the individual who is using it, which is far more sometimes apparent to the quality of the outcome. So yeah, we need to make sure that people know how to use that, know how to use the software on it, and making sure that you get all the information that you need. When I was doing gap tests, and I'm like running gap tests like that, they're your averages. I would then also make a note of peak written on the chart. You've got the chart on the right hand side there, know your numbers. You can write the peak on the right, and then also on the left hand side there you can write what your forced carry as well. But yeah, so depending on the ability level of the golfer, you get more or less numbers, but yeah. Right, so Ben says, how much do you charge for a gap test? I charge everything exactly the same. I charge £1 a minute. It's much easier for me to charge £60 an hour because I do online stuff and stuff like that. And so when I'm doing online stuff, it's so much easier to work away. I am not one of these people. I refuse to be a YouTube person which charges 100 and something pounds an hour. I could get into a rant about that, but I won't. I understand it's a business, definitely. The problem is by me charging £150 an hour, and there are people that would quite easily pay it. I have no issue whatsoever with paying £150 an hour for me to go through what I normally do on lesson for what I charge for 60. And why do I charge 60? Because at least I've got to obviously make sure that my time is worth my time doing certain things, and if I'm traveling from different places or doing something like that, it's obviously got to be worth my while doing it. Okay, we are talking about a living here. So, but also I've got this huge passion about golf is not just for the elite. Golf is not just for the people that can afford it. When it comes to can afford the best, I would rather make sure that I put my rates at a point of where is still within the realms of normal people to justify to a lesser or greater extent to have a session. Yeah, that's how I do it basically. Matty says, how to determine with your different irons and conditions how close to the flag you want to land your ball? That's a really good question. So for me, when I make that decision, that is based on knowing what my, not just what my gap test is, but what my flight dynamics are like. Knowing my descent angle, knowing my peak heights, and then knowing how different shots, when you flight the golf ball in higher or lower, how that different descent angle makes a difference to your landing, your difference when your landing position, your carry number, and then your finish position. That changes with different shot shapes, and that also changes with different atmospherics and green conditions. There is a lot of question marks when it comes to golf, and there are there's definitely a certain amount of information that even 18, 25, 20, not 28, 30 handicappers, because obviously they varied a lot more, but definitely within sort of like the low 20s to everybody can utilize this information that they could quite easily utilize or even consider at the time of making a plan for the shot that they're going to hit, that they don't. And of course, then they miss certain things, and then they kick themselves afterwards. And so getting yourself into a routine, getting yourself into a pre-shot routine where you're looking at certain things in a disciplined way, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, when it comes to anything in golf, if there's loads of swing work to do, or there's loads of setup work to do, and all stuff like that, pre-shot routine, that doesn't matter. Anything that's done in static, what I mean, anything that's done it without motion, when it's a case of before you hit the golf, grip, stance, posture, alignment, different body position you need to get into, reading the lie, the wind, so many different things that happen in static before the golf ball is being hit, as in before you're making a move. As long as you're disciplined in remembering exactly what you need to do, you can go through step by step, bum, 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 bum. People do that at the moment. They don't really have to think about what they currently do. Why? Because they're already in some form of pre-shot routine. What you need to do is just have a disciplined pre-shot routine. You do enough, but it becomes routine and you don't think about it. Then after that, when it comes to physically in motion, dynamic, 2 swing thoughts at the absolute max. Absolute max. But what I've always said to people to do when it comes to any kind of coaching, their swing change, if you're working on a distinct swing change, work hard at it when it comes to practice. Hard, 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 accentuate, accentuate, exaggerate, do everything you can do to do more of what you need to do. So that when you come and play golf, you then have to then just play. Don't think about it, and then hopefully with all that work that you're doing to accentuate and exaggerate the move that you need to do, that will bring your baseline closer to where you need to be without such exaggerated feelings. Cody, hello Cody. Without the option for a custom fitting, do you believe a PX LZ 5.5 115 gram shaft is too soft to flex for an 87 miles an hour 7 iron swing speed? Have heard the LZ shaft plays firmer. Right, so the landing zone, the PX, the Project X landing zone 115 has a bend profile which is fairly soft in the 2/3, half to 2/3 section of the shaft when it goes down. Slightly stiffer tip, but it's definitely a softer section. It is fairly a unique shaft, so when it comes to bend profile testing, say on a swing DNA tool, I wouldn't personally go for that because of the unique nature of the bend profile. It is designed purely to capture a certain part of the golfing population which don't have a shaft. The probably closest one to that would be a Modus 120 stiff. That's even more aggressive when it comes to its bend profile, 2/3 to a half, 2/3 down. But if you can, I know you've already said you haven't got the option for custom fit, it would be interesting to see if there's any way you can get on a swing DNA tool analyzer, because obviously then that takes out absolutely every single question mark about what shaft you require going forward. Perry says, other consideration is lateral deviation. Absolutely. The good thing about having obviously a gap test is when you do gap tests, I'll just pop up whatever that one, no, which was the one, which was a better one to show. Yeah, that's a mess. So if you see that one there, that is an utter mess, as you can see it. So you got lateral deviation there. And then you go to different other golfers that don't have that same lateral deviation, you'll be able to see, what's the best one? No, we'll go that one there. Oh, we didn't need the kaleidoscope. But you can see then there, lateral deviation on that one is less. However, and I think I need to either persuade or at least put this out there, the vast majority of golfers have worse north-south than east-west dispersion. So much is spoke about when it comes to being offline left or right, where if you look at average golfers or if you look at handicap golfers, by far their biggest deviation is front to back. There you go. But you absolutely, you are right, Perry, 100%. Consideration lateral deviation. I'm always looking at lateral deviation. Definitely I'm looking at lateral deviation on understanding of how wayward they are in a certain golf club, if they have a pattern, which we can also then look at how that pattern can be utilized or changed depending on if it works or not. Ben says, cool, that's great to know about the price. I'd like to come visit once the new clubs arrive. You're more than welcome. Ben, reach out to me either via my email, askgolfnut@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, loads of things like that. Yeah, message me, direct message me. So, home for ya. Hello, Jay. From sunny Arizona. Here we go. It's been sunny today, actually. It's been lovely here the last week or so. I230 versus I230 versus JPX HMHL. Only play 3 times a month with no practice and play to 6. It's very good. with no practice. That's very, very good. I'm a baseball slinger, low mid draws. So height, forgiveness and spin are a must. Suggestions to try. Well, it's an interesting one because when you're talking about what you're talking about there is that you're going to get, depending on how fast you swing, etc., and what your requirements are. Obviously, the JPX Hot Metal 923 Hot Metal High Launch is a very specific golf club. It does things in a very specific way, and it is quite an aggressive-looking girl when it comes to its size. I mean, we are not talking it's like slinky, dinky, dinky. We are talking about, well, I tell you what, I can go get it. Let's not fall over the desk again. Oh, dear me, getting old. Where are you? Here you are. Here you are, here you are, here you are, here you are, here you are. We found it. Right, so the JPX 923 Hot Metal High Launch is a bit, well, I say a bit of a beast. She is. She's a large old puppy, but she does something. Well, the job that she does very well. She does that at the sacrifice of looks, unfortunately. Obviously, when you're talking about trying to get something going up as much as this does, I mean, this is not aggressively lofted. It's 81 degrees for a 7-iron, so modern ways, that's quite weak. But it's got all the help of the hot metal side in there. And if anything, it's beefed up beyond belief. So other manufacturers make things which are similar, but the problem is you're going to have on that is you will possibly lose a little bit of feel, definitely, because obviously of its construction, but it's still, when it comes to the JPX range, 923 are the softest acoustics versions yet, and it does go up. Or if you cannot get a Hot Metal High Launch up, then yeah. The only thing I would say when it comes to the hot metal side of things, because obviously a hot metal side of things is much more game improvement orientated, it loves shots out the toe. When you're looking at already people that do some versions of draws, toe shots can be a little bit unpredictable when it comes to the added gear effect. Now obviously people know that there is not that much gear effect applied on an iron. Well, that is true, and especially true when you have something of that nature. However, the more of anything that you have of that nature, where the thickness of the sole starts to get bigger, and that means effectively the floating effective center of gravity, this floating CG, is further away from the face, because obviously the stretched out back body, that means you will get a certain amount of gear effect. Just to keep in mind. Jim says, I've watched your content for years now, but I'm sure I know your personal golf story. Did you play as a junior? Yes, I did, yeah. When did you see the greatest positive change in your golf performance? When I gave up. That's true. When I was a junior, I'm talking 10, I gave up. It drove me mental that I could not do what I want to do every single time. I was going down the driving range, hit one shot really, really well, and hit the rest of them not so good. And so it drove me insane. So mentally I was not prepared, mentally I was not resilient enough, and mentally I wasn't able to deal with the ups and downs of golf. I see that still consistently in adults, which they let the game get to them too much, and their emotional roller coaster is such that it detracts away from them learning. But yeah, so I did, and then I was fairly late coming back into golf. I was, how was I? I was in my early 20s before I then got back into golf. And then, yeah, went on the rampage when it comes to getting back into it, and then obviously, yeah, getting the handicap right back down again, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Well, it's a very similar thing to what most people in my position inevitably get to. So, yeah. But I did manage to play golf last week, which was nice. Played twice, I think, once with my friend on Friday, and then once on my own as such on Thursday. What was it? I played did I play a full 18? I can't remember if no, I didn't. No, we didn't play a full 18. But on the Thursday on my own, first time out after about a year, and it has been that long since I've played golf. I've been so busy with coaching, custom fitting, YouTube, house renovations as well. I've been obviously doing that as I've been letting everyone know. But I managed to play, I think it was 11 holes, shot one over for 11 holes, which wasn't bad considering that's the first time I've hit off grass in about a year, just because I'm so busy and it's just the way things go. People think that just because you work within the golfing industry that, oh, you must be out there all day, all the time playing golf. No, I'm like busy, really busy. But yeah, so right, so if anyone else hasn't got any other questions, what I will do, I will trottle off. I hope this one has been informative. If you are rapidly typing, by all means keep rapidly typing. If there's something that comes through right till the very end, I will answer it. So if everyone wants to get their questions in as I pad for a few seconds, then Mr. Mumble, hello. Is there a certain ball flights or stats you see when you start to play with the shorter irons? So hello, is there certain ball flights or stats you see when you would start to play with shorter iron lengths? Okay, so if you change your iron lengths to shorter, would there necessarily be ball flights or stats that you would see? Okay, so it depends on how that shaft initially, if you're going to cut the shaft down, it initially does mean how that shaft has been shortened. If you're butt trimming it, not necessarily too much. I mean, you've got the Alberto, hello. I hope you are well. Nice to see, or not see, but you know what I mean, nice to have you along. But yeah, so Mr. Mumble, if you get to a point of where you butt trim a shaft, you will have little to no difference or effect onto its EI curve or its bend profile. So flight may not or won't change much, if any. The only difference in flight you'll really get is because of the potential reduction in clubhead speed from that shorter shaft, which will then, obviously, you kind of get the idea. It works two ways as well. Obviously, the longer shaft, the more the deflection, and then also the faster you swing the golf club, even through centrifugal force, because of the longer length, you'll still get there more deflection anyway for the center of gravity is trying to chase each other without boring you senseless. So it is a bit of a two-whammy thing, but within reason, relatively very little. If you then went to the extent of tip trimming your shafts, depending on obviously what kind of shafts, because you can't all, yeah, you kind of get, I won't bore you, then yes, you would see a distinct difference, not only in the speed centrifugally and all that lot, but the bend profile will change when you start tip trimming shafts. But as a general rule, unless you start really shorten them by a bucket load, I wouldn't necessarily say that there is a huge difference. As long as you understand your distances, proper gap test, understanding a proper gap test and the information you glean from that gap test, you should be fine. So, Home For You says, thank you for your explanation of hot metal high launch. Did you mean that toe hits? My miss is 80%. Might be worse or better in a club like HM High versus I210, which, with firm Arizona summer high bounce may not be a positive. So the higher bounce, okay, so if you look at the bounce on a HL, on the new JPX 923 clubs anyway, the bounce is slightly more. Yes, it is. But if you're going against a ping already, when it comes to historically very high bounce anyway, even the I210s and stuff like that. Now, yes, there is a certain thing to talk about effective bounce, because you could have two golf clubs. One has got more bounce than the other when it comes to its initial bounce angle, but the sole plate is thinner. So then a golf club with a double as thick sole plate would have the same effect within reason as a half effect, half as much bounce, because of the thickness of the sole. Just think about an aerodynamic wing. If an aerodynamic wing was at a certain angle, but then say that long to get to the same angle, but a shorter sole, I could actually have a bounce even, like you can see the difference. You can, yeah. Right, so Alberto says, I'm playing Nippon 950 shafts, but I'm finding flight is high, maybe too high, great for shots into the green, not much else. So what would you recommend? Need a lightweight shaft. You're going Nippon 95. Are you happy, do you want to stay still or do you want to go into, I mean, steel fiber? You could try, but I don't like the upcharge idea of it. I don't mind the recoils. It depends on what you're looking for. I mean, obviously, there are many different, obviously, when you're going such a lightweight steel, you can go, the KBS have a very good range of very light shafts. Love the feel of steel and stability. Yeah, so in that case, then obviously there's KBS do an array of very, very light options, which are good, like even down to 85 grams. I don't think they may do even something lighter. I'm not quite sure, but they do many, many different shafts that are lighter, some extremely light, and their bend profiles aren't aggressive, so they shouldn't be too flicky, kicky, whatever people want to call it. The only thing you can do, honestly, is just go test, because I could say one thing, but then without knowing how that is, how the golfer in essence affects or offends the shaft, you can get two golfers that have two different reactions to one certain shaft. So that's you kind of do a DNA fit and you go, right, that's where you are, but you still need to test that shaft with someone to see or say, like, that's what's going to happen potentially, but that's what actually does happen because people react differently to different things. So, right. So if everybody is done, no, we have a home for you at 59 and down to 97 miles an hour with the driver. My 3-wood and 5-wood seem to go only 5 yards difference. Yeah, I'd dump the 3-wood and just get a 4-wood in there if we're looking at trying and amalgamate. What we got until on here? Smart loft down 5-wood, 16.5 and trade wood. Yeah, I've literally just said that. So yeah, I got to a point of answering your question halfway through, but yes. Dump the 3-wood, have a 4-wood, amalgamate those two golf clubs to make something a bit more functional, and then if you need another wedge, remember, I mean, these golf clubs are expensive and also you've got to carry it, so only have something else if you need to. Right, I'm playing, so Alberta says, I'm playing reg, could switch to a 950 staff be a solution? Could a switch to 950 staff be a solution? Well, I wouldn't say necessarily. I mean, I'd want to go something distinctly different, stiff. But I'd want to go something, because you're talking about, when you're talking about bend profile, creating something which is going to be a little bit too high, you're talking about the whole bend profile working in a way. When you're talking about going from a regular to a stiff, you're talking about a linear step up in its bend profile, but the bend profile still is the same. It just tracks it the same, just a little bit stiffer. I'd be looking at something just a little bit more, a changed bend profile rather than going down the same route. Cody says, what was the most likely effect of adding a heavier grip and a driver opposed to counterbalance shaft? Exactly that, about counterbalancing the shaft. But it depends on having, or how big that grip is and how many wraps of tape you've got on it, how much of a difference it really is. It can make a big difference if you're going to go from a standard grip to like cricket bat jumbo with extra tapes. That can make a difference, absolutely. Can make the head light as crazy. But there is a problem if it does it a lot, if you are talking about putting a bigger grip on and it does actually change the swing weight by quite a bit, and then there is a requirement to add head weight to try and get it back again. But the problem is, obviously, as soon as you add head weight, then you start deflecting the shaft even more, because then you change the relative stiffness of the shaft. So your now lovely custom fit shaft won't necessarily fit because of the change in the head weights. And so it will offend more, it will bend more. Alberto says, many thanks, Jay. We'll check out the KBS shafts. Yeah, they do like the max light and stuff like that. When it comes to TaylorMade, they use them a lot when it comes to their super game improvement irons, like the stealths and stuff like that, because obviously without such a light setup, it does promote the fact that you can swing the head a little bit faster, and obviously in certain custom fittings where distance is the primary selling tool, faster you can move that head, the ones that a lot of people concentrate on, the peak ones, it can win. So yeah. Home for you says, glad I caught you live, love the direct answers, have a blessed week, PS it's 97 and off to play. Thanks for that. I don't know what it is actually outside, to be fair, it's getting cold now, so what does it say? What does it say? And I'll then depart now. Hope everyone enjoyed the US Open though. So there's been a certain amount of people that haven't seen it so far, hasn't seen the final round. They recorded it because it was on a bit late and stuff like that. It was just because of scheduling and stuff. And so yeah, I've been trying to not talk to everyone today, just in case they haven't seen it. So tomorrow is going to be 24 degrees, but it's going to come down like you wouldn't believe. 98% chance of rain, and that amount of chance of rain is going to end up being 17.3 millimeters, otherwise known as 3/4 of an inch of the lovely wet stuff. So it's going to be fairly damp tomorrow, but fairly warm. So yeah, but 97 degrees. Okay, if everyone is done, thank you very much for joining in. We got about a minute while I pad to the end, and if I get to the end of this, by all means say goodbye if you like and stuff like that. I will then finish the stream off, but I hope, because I really wanted to do this stream, and I want to try and make it as concise as possible and condensed as possible when it comes to time. I don't want this one to go into a 4-hour one, because obviously there's I feel there's some very important information out here that people really need just to listen to, think about, not have an opinion straight away, just think about it, digest it, be open to it, and then yeah, just do a test. Thunderstorms around here, and I think thunderstorms also might be around tomorrow as well, Alberto. So you're in Spain, are you not? And so if we look at yeah, that's where I am. If we press the little button, there you go. You're Spain, so you're down here, and yeah, you're getting, look at that, raw. Powers of, that's live radar, weather forecast for you. Madrid, there you go, so you're getting a sprinkling. But enjoy the thunderstorm anyway, because I do like a good thunderstorm. So, thanks very much for checking out, guys. Really appreciate the comments as always, and yeah, within reason. Oh, Frugal Fix, hello. How you doing? Hi, Jay. He says you caught the end of it. On the basis of, because of there's some important information on here. I don't really want to go into a 3-4 hour one, because obviously subscribers will watch it, absolutely, yes they will, but they won't, the people that just go through and just surf through, if they find something that's going to be best part of 4 hours long, they won't bother, and too right, why would they? So, right, so in that case, if everyone's done, thank you very much for your time, thank you very much for joining in, and then we will see each other next time, next Monday, for another one. So at the doctor with Dad, got parked. Just got parked. Well, hope everything goes well at the doctor's with Dad. So, and yeah, give us an update next week. So hope everyone is well, and we'll see each other next Monday. Next Monday, 19:30 UK time. And then we might do a little bit more of a marathon next week. It might be like an absolute Q&A, a old school Q&A with you trying to give me as much tricky questions as possible to see if I can or cannot, if I get stumped. Haven't been stumped yet, but I always relish the challenge. So next week, we'll see each other soon. And remember, we've got more content coming actually when it comes to the normal YouTube side of things. starting from tomorrow night, and then Wednesday, Thursday, you kind of get an idea. So hope you're well, and we'll see you again soon.